Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I have tried to film this so many times already. I'm trying my darndest here. So this is a lighting and shadows tutorial. I don't even know if I'm going to get into the shadows part because frankly I think the light is going to be hard and long enough for this video to be cut into parts, but we'll find out when I title this video, won't we? I'm not an expert on this topic. This video is probably going to be a little bit all over the place, and I can't guarantee that it's going to be very organized in a thoughtful manner. I'm just going to try to go through as best things as I can. So without further ado, let's get into it. But of course, before I do, friendly reminder, the subscribe button is down below. You might want to hit it if you want to see more videos like this. And also you're going to have to hit the bell icon because YouTube just can't merge two buttons together to make one thing. Anyway, not better. Lighting. There are two kinds of lighting for the most part. Hard lighting and soft lighting. Hard is when you see like a direct line. Soft is when it's just kind of like a blurry beauty blender kind of look, okay? The problem I see a lot is that some artists will just pick one or the other and they'll just use it throughout the whole drawing or whatever it is. And the problem is that even if you have the same lighting situation, different objects are going to require different kinds of light. They're either going to want to go soft or hard. So if you're drawing something like a tin robot wearing a feather boa, it doesn't matter if they're in a situation where it's even lighting, the feather boa and the tin man are going to look completely different. So how do you know which one is which? Let's talk about soft first. Soft lighting gets that way because light, when it's hitting an object, and this is going to get very scientific of course, when a light photon or whatever it is hits an object that's soft, say my cute little Bambi, it's going to get it's going to bounce around on the surface. I'm sorry about the Boston noise outside. When light hits the surface of a fuzzy object, it bounces around all across the surface, creating a very soft light. So if we look at my little Bambi, there is not a hard shadow to be found because the light is hitting this fuzzy object and it's just kind of getting caught up in all of the fuzziness. It's getting lost, shall we say. Not to mention, this object is a little bit round. We see the curve of this deer's body and stuff like that. Light travels in a straight line, right? It's just going straight. If it hits something like this, it can't like really curve. So you're just getting like a light beam here and here and here. And when it's grazing the top, it just kind of skates. So whenever you have an object, I'm going to turn this off, this is ridiculous. Whenever you have an object that's rounded, even if it's a metallic object, you're going to find some soft shadows because the light is like climbing over that round thing. And anything with a kind of texture like this can be soft and fuzzy, or it can be a variety of different textures, you know, like sand, for example, or curly hair, or whatever it is. If the light can kind of just move around in that textured surface, it's going to get more diffused and it's going to become a softer lighting situation. There's also things that aren't necessarily soft. They can be perfectly smooth, but light still doesn't react the way you want it to because there's always things that go wrong. Have you ever noticed that like gummy bears or like gummy objects in general, like they don't really have hard highlights unless they have like a clearish coating or something. They have like a glow, kind of. Like it looks kind of like a soft light on the top of it, but it looks like it's just glowing on the inside. Or have you ever noticed that when you put your hands up to the sun, it instantly becomes like an orangey color and it looks like the light is like going through your hands? It's because it is. There are some objects that light can actually pass through because again, it's made out of photons or whatever it is. I could be getting that wrong. It's been a long time since I took my physics class. I'm sorry about the noise. But basically, the light can actually go through certain surfaces and it will create that glowy sort of effect. So something, again, like a gummy object or flesh, which is also kind of gummy, means that the light will go through and it will change the color of that object. It's not going to glow white, it's going to change temperature and lightness. So if a light is going through a purple object, it's going to become a lot more warm toned unless the light is blue, in which case it's going to react in terms of like what color light it is. In any case, those are the situations where it's going to become a little bit more soft. Hard is a completely different thing. So something hard and flat like this Pentax camera CD that I've never used is going to reflect a lot of light because the light is hitting this very, very smooth surface and it's pinging right off. And that light is being bounced into our eyeballs, into our pupils or whatever, so we're able to see it. The more smooth an object is, the more likely it's going to become like a mirror. So I'm looking at this little CD thing and I can see my face in it, and that is because the light is just bouncing straight back at me, just delivering the message that it sees. So that's why, for example, water, you can see your reflection in it, or if you look really closely at like a shiny spoon, you can see your faces in it. That light is pinging straight back. Because it's pinging, it's going to create a hard highlight, which is when you've got just like a shape. Now, there's other objects that are going to do that, naturally shiny or reflective objects. So for example, like you might find like a fabric or something that's kind of like softish but super holographic, that can still reflect a whole bunch of light. So it kind of depends on how shiny you want the thing to be. If you have a character who has really frizzy hair, don't give them harsh highlights because that's going to give the effect of shiny. If you give them softer highlights, it's going to look like the light is going through a tangled mess, which is what the effect that you want. To put it super minimalistically, that's what happens. Let's talk about me. I have greasy skin and highlighter on my cheeks, so I am reflecting light like a glazed donut. My shirt is a softer material, so even though we are in the same lighting situation, it's not going to reflect as shiny as my face is. So if you're doing an illustration, you have to balance between the two things, and that sometimes gets complicated. I'm sure you've seen a lot of video tutorials or just tutorials in general where someone is drawing like a face and they show this is what it looks like when the light's over here, this is what it looks like when the light's over here. I can take my handy dandy lamp and kind of move it all over my face. Oh my god, it's blinding. But honestly, it's pretty hard to remember exactly where the light hits the face because some faces are bigger than others. Some people have big smushy cheeks, some people have very sunken cheekbones. So it's always good to have a reference material if you can, but if you don't have reference, here's what you gotta do. Every single object on the universe can be broken down into simple shapes, including the human skull. If I were to break my head down into the simplest shape on the planet, it would just be a sphere. But obviously we're not just a sphere. You can say that my nose is like a pyramid-y kind of geometric shape. You can say that my forehead is a plane that goes kind of like this. You can say that my cheekbones are yet another plane. I'm going to show some examples so you can see what I'm talking about. Remember what we were talking about when I was saying, okay, when the light is grazing something, it's soft. When it hits it straight on, especially if it's a reflective surface, it's going to ping right back. That's how you figure it out. So if you draw, like before you're doing a drawing, if you draw like the head and you draw like the basic geometric shapes and you figure like, okay, the light's coming from here. Well, if the light's coming from here, it's definitely going to hit this plane right here. Even though I have cheekbones, and don't laugh, they're there. Even though I have cheekbones and that creates a natural shadow, this light is going to hit this plane. So this is going to illuminate. It's probably going to only skim this part because it's kind of angled. So it's probably going to turn into a soft light over here. And it's probably going to illuminate the side of my nose right here, but it's going to be a hard shadow on this side because that light is just not going to get over there. What you got to do is, if you have an object that you're really not sure, consider all the variables. Is it a strong light? Of course, I didn't say this before because this video is a mess, but if your light source is weak versus a strong light source, that can depend on like how much shiny is going to happen. So it depends on the amount of light that's going on, but let's say you've got like a perfectly good amount of light. Think about the quality, the material quality of that object, and think about the shapes that are playing off of it and where the light is coming from. Now we have to talk about colored lighting, and this is where ambiance sets in. The easiest way to tell if someone doesn't know anything about lighting is if they draw a character in a color world and the characters do not fit the color world whatsoever. Remember how in my color theory video I was talking about how like lighting plays a huge role in color theory? This is what we're getting into right now. Light always has a color. Sometimes that color is white, but light always has a color. And what happens is when an object is hit by that color, it's going to reflect back that color. When we are in a white light situation, let's say we're in like a salon or something and they've got like the ring lights all over the place and you're just being blasted with white light. To put it as so unscientifically as possible, the white light is hitting our face or whatever the surface is and it's pinging back and it's telling our eyes it is red or it is purple or it is whatever the thing is, okay? If you put the same object, let's say we're talking about my skin, okay? Let's say we're putting me, Biana Bova, in a lighting situation that's just red. Let's say I'm in the middle of a volcano. Let's say I'm on the surface of the sun. Let's just say there's a crap ton of red light and only red light. It doesn't matter that my skin is this baby peach color. Your body, your eyes are going to see my skin as red because the red light is hitting my face and it doesn't give a shit that this is the actual skin tone. It's red and it means it and it's going back into your eyes. That's why we see, like in music videos or fashion photography or whatever, situations where someone is standing and there's like a colored light being blasted on their cheeks and it looks like their skin has turned that color. We know that that's not the actual color of their skin tone, of course, but that's what happens. Most of the time though, we are in lighting situations where it's not that extreme. I don't live my day-to-day life surrounded by teal or purple light or something like that. I wish. But we do live in a lot of lighting situations where you are going to have to change the color based on the light. For example, sunrise, sunset, nighttime, if your character's at a rave, if your character's at an aquarium and there's all that blue light coming out from the fish tanks, lighting changes depending on what's going on. So if we're talking about like a beautiful sunny day, that light is going to be, if we're talking in a photographic sense, it'll be slightly blue, but it's going to be, for all intents and purposes, beautiful white light, and everything is just going to become its natural normal color. If we're talking about a sunset, sunsets have a much more golden color. How do we know that? Look at the sky. The sky will tell you what color that light is going to be. It's showing you your color palettes. So if the sky is like a gorgeousy golden tone, it's going to cast everything in a glorious golden tone. So all of your characters, every single thing in that world has to have that cast of golden light. And then you can worry about the highlights and the shadows and the blah blah blah. But you have to put everything in that golden lighting situation because otherwise it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb and it's not gonna work. What if your character is in the middle of the night and let's say there are no street lamps, there's like some stars or something, so there's a little bit of light. If you are in the dark, like let's say your object is in pure blackness, outer space, black hole. Now if there's no light, you're not going to see anything. Absolutely nothing. If you put your character or whatever in a dark light source, it's going to be super, super grainy. The darker your lighting situation, the less color is going to hit your eyes. When it's very late at night and you can't fall asleep and you're just looking around your room being bored as hell, you might look at the sweater on your chair and be like, I know that it's a marigold yellow. But in the darkness of the night, that marigold yellow is going to look like this bulky, dark color. You will know from your the way your brain works, you will know that that color is in fact like a golden yellow color. You will know that some things are certain colors, but the darker it is, the harder and harder it is to differentiate. It becomes much more gray toned. So when you're doing a dark night scene, do not use any saturated colors, unless it's like literally glowing or something, but then obviously it has light on it. If it's in the darkness, it's not going to have any light, which means it's not going to show much color. The light is very weakly hitting the skin and it's like, all right, it's skin tone, but barely, like it's tired. That's the first thing. Dim all of your colors down by like a lot. If you are drawing your characters in the forest, those leaves are going to look like barely green. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the summer and it's actually a brilliant emerald. The other thing is, of course, because it's nighttime, it's going to have dark blue light. Hello, thank you sky for helping us figure that out. Everything is going to be cast in that tone. If you were doing this digitally, you could just get another layer, put it on multiply, and you could like literally make that cast happen. If you're doing it traditionally, you're going to have to mix it with your paints, and that's a little bit more difficult, but also not terribly hard because you're just mixing the same color with all of your other colors that you would normally use. It's pretty easy if you pick your core colors and then adjust from there. Or if you could do like a whole big wash if possible. So that's what happens. Just look to the sky or look at whatever light source you're looking at. You're trying to figure it out from there. And the last thing. This is the thing that everyone does not want to talk about, and that's reflective light. Oh, you thought I was going to forget. I almost forgot. Reflective light is really weird. So like everyone knows reflective light exists because when you draw that obligatory sphere in art class, you're always making sure that there's that tiny little bit of highlight, but reflective light doesn't make any sense. Remember how we're talking about like light pinging off of surfaces? Light pings off of surfaces and then it kind of scatters around in the universe. So if we have our object, this side of my face is getting blasted with light and it's very uncomfortable. This part of my face right here is getting shadow because of course this is all super, super light and the contrast is just creating that really intense shadow, of course. And then what do you see over here? It's not perfect darkness. There's a little bit of that reflective light because the light from here is kind of moving around in the world. It's pinging off and it's going off in many directions and it's creating an ambiance right here. If there is a light source, there's going to be some kind of reflected light. Light does not exist in a vacuum. Even if you have a freaking laser pointer and you're like aiming it at the wall and you've just got this narrow little beam of light, that light is still going to be reflected somewhere, even if it's just in your cat's pupils. Sometimes reflected light is really hard to notice, but other times it's very visible. For example, there was one time when I was looking for something in my backpack, and my backpack is just like a dark cave, right? And I was looking for a pink index card because I wrote something important on it. And I couldn't find it anywhere, but then I noticed a tiny little like hint of pink light literally hitting the inside wall of my backpack. And I was like, oh shit, it's right there. And lo and behold, I was able to find it in 2 seconds. That index card was not the color neon, but light actually manages to bounce off of things a lot more than you probably notice. So this is your homework assignment. Look around your natural world and find reflected light. Sometimes it's a little difficult. The problem is white light doesn't really make for good reflective light because it's just kind of brightening the shadows. It's not really adding like a color. But if you have like a colored reflective light, it's going to show up really, really easily. That's how I was able to find that index card real quick. Isn't lighting weird? I have barely even touched upon multiple light sources or anything, but there's just so much to it. So if you do have multiple light sources, you're just gonna copy everything that we've been talking about multiple times. So if we've got a light source over here, it's gonna zap my cheek, make it light. We have another light source right over here, boom, it's going to more or less cancel out a lot of the shadows that's created, so I'm going to look a lot more lit, but shadows are still going to be created in some little parts wherever the light can. So if we have 2 light sources blasting me, probably not going to have any shadows. If one of them is like up here and one of them's more down here, then you're just going to have to follow the planes of whatever the object is and figure it out as best as you can. Lighting is difficult. The best thing I can say is keep looking at the natural world. It will give you all the inspiration and resources that you ever need beyond YouTube, DeviantArt, or any other place that you would find a tutorial. Find reference pictures. If you are ever confused about what something looks like in a certain light, just pull it up. You will get so much more information. And if you need to, test it on yourself. You have a phone, right? Probably, or something you can take a picture of yourself with. Hold it up, get a light source, shine it on your face. Like if that's what you have to do, that's what you gotta do. But in general, just pick one light source to make it easy on yourself and try to follow the rules I talked about in this video as best as you can. If it looks pretty good to you, it's probably gonna look pretty darn good to your audience as well. No one needs to be a light expert. I mean, it'd be great, right? You don't need to be a light expert. You just gotta kind of sort of know the rules and then make it up as you go along. Because unless you have the exact ideal lighting situation set up like on your desk, like a still life or something, it's gonna be very difficult for you to figure it out because light is weird. I'm totally not gonna talk about shadows today. I've decided I'm not doing it. We're gonna do that in another video in the very far future because I'm tired of this topic. Right as I say that, the sunshine really hits outside. All right, my voice is sore. I'm gonna give it a rest. And yeah, I hope to God this video was useful for you all. If you have lighting tips, if you know a thing or two that I don't, if you think you can explain something better than I've done in this video, you just write it in the comment section. You can see my artwork on Instagram and Tumblr. You can buy my artwork on Etsy, or you can just subscribe to this channel and keep watching videos like this. That would even be better. I make videos every Wednesday and Sunday, so there's gonna be another one coming out very soon, so I'll just see you then. If you want the notification, hit the bell icon. All right, guys, I promise I'll stop talking. See you soon, loves. Mwah. Have a great day. Bye.